Tech Sideline is presented by First Bank and Trust Company, the bank that puts you first. They can meet your banking and financing needs for personal, agricultural, business, commercial, mortgages, and so much more. Visit firstbank.com to learn more.
The Hokies are 1-0 in conference play after a 23-21 road win over NC State. Let's recap the contest on episode 441 of the Tech Sideline podcast, which starts right now. We're recording on Monday, September 29th, 2025 from the Tech Solutions studio in the Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center. If you're watching the show on YouTube, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and refer the show to a friend. I'm your host, Riley Klaus, and today I'm joined to my left by lead analyst and columnist Chris Coleman, across the way, managing editor David Cunningham, and to my right is senior staff writer Andy Bitter. Producing the show, as always, behind the scenes is Mr. Nick Brown. Well, we're here today to talk about the recap of the game between NC State and Virginia Tech, in which the Hokies start 1-0 in ACC play for the fifth time in the last 6 seasons, a one-score game victory, 23-21. What are the first overall impressions you have from this game?
I go back to how we felt about this team before the season started. We thought they were going to probably have a pretty strong running game, decent enough at least. We thought the passing game would probably be inconsistent but opportunistic. We thought the defense would be pretty good, and we thought the Hokies would have a great kicker. That's what it looked like the other night. And we also thought before the season that this NC State game was going to be kind of a 50-50 game. What if Virginia Tech is exactly who we thought they were going to be? It just took a coaching change to get there.
Yeah, possibly. I think you see the start of ACC play, you get NC State and Wake Forest. That's a chance to get off to on a good foot in conference play. So who knows exactly how good this team. I think my big takeaway from this game is, they won a tight game. They won a one-score game, which obviously Brent Pry struggled with his entire time here. And it really felt like a sense of just joy in the locker room afterwards. You see Philip Montgomery dancing around, the players going nuts and all this stuff. Like, can you imagine just sort of the cathartic release after what's gone on here the last couple of weeks and how they started the season so bad? Their coach gets fired. There's players opting out. There's players choosing to transfer. There's agents screaming to high heaven about rev share and all this other stuff, whether that's actually a valid complaint or not. Maybe a case for a court to decide down the line here. But there's so much drama going on around this program. Then they go out there and they win a game like this, and they get contributions from everybody. It's not like there was a star of the game that like saved the game or something like that. Maybe John Love. I don't know. Pretty good game. He continues to be great, but they got contributions from all over, from a bunch of different sources. Some stepping up for the first time. I don't know. It was just a really nice win. I mean, people will sit here and say, NC State's not that great. And I know the NC State sites are talking about this as one of the worst losses of the Dave Doran era. I mean, it just kind of tells you a different perspective on different sides. Like, you lost to a team that fired its coach 2 weeks ago. Like, what is going on with this team? So, keep it in perspective about how good it was. But it had to feel great in that locker. It had to feel great for this fan base to actually get to, they've been beaten down so much by these one-score losses. I have to imagine when Tech punted the ball back to NC State at the end, they're going, I know how this one ends. I know how this is going to end. And it didn't end that way. It ended the opposite way. It had to feel great getting that kind of result.
Yeah, I thought, sitting in the press box next to Andy and Carter Finley, it felt genuinely like Virginia Tech deserved this win. I think we've seen the Hokies back their way into victories here or there, but I think with so much going on the last couple of weeks, it was like, man, is Virginia Tech really going to be any good? How is this team really going to play? Wofford doesn't really give you a good sense of anything, and then you go out there and you take it to NC State. You move the ball offensively. How about Terrion Stewart? I mean, what a impact he made, and the defense showed up. That was a type of team I think we expected Virginia Tech could be. Not necessarily flashy or anything, but just kind of a gritty, run you down. You got to make good plays in the clutch, and Virginia Tech did. I thought the operation went very smoothly. It felt like Virginia Tech deserved this win, and that's surprising because we haven't said that very often lately, particularly against ACC teams. I mean, Virginia Tech when Pry was fired, Tech had lost 6 of its last 7 games, and the one win was over UVA. This is the first time in a while that Virginia Tech, like, against a team about as good as it, maybe, or a little bit better, Tech played very well.
First time since 2023 they've beaten the starting quarterback that didn't get benched later.
We'll see. We'll see if he keeps the job.
True.
Well,
No.
I think looking at this, we talked last week. I don't think anybody had high hopes for this game based on our predictions. Certainly,
I did have them covering.
Okay, I've done that before, but no, I had them covered. We were sitting here openly talking about how many ACC games is this team going to win? 1, 2? I mean, that's where you put the number, was way down the list. So I think they were, and rightfully so. It's not like, oh, where'd that kind of prediction come from? It's like, did you watch the Vanderbilt and ODU games? Like, yes, that's a very valid thing to talk about at this point. So it is refreshing to see a team go out there and play, to its potential, to its capabilities, to how we thought they could play. This is going to be a long slog of a season for Hokies fans if they came out there and they, laid another egg. It's like, okay, you beat the tar out of Wofford. Who cares? That was a bad FCS team. If you can't do anything against an ACC team, it doesn't really matter. They came out here and they showed some stuff. So it doesn't feel like this is just a, count down the time to the end of the season. It might still feel that way a little bit, but it feels like maybe this team can be more competitive than we thought.
It's funny. We talked so much before the season about how we felt like the offensive and defensive coordinators, the new guys, Montgomery and Seifkes, would get the most out of this team. And it felt like it took 5 games to get there, but like they finally got the most out of those guys on the field. And it showed, and they outplayed NC State in a lot of different areas.
So let's walk through this game and really break it down. Starting, what did you see early on between Virginia Tech forcing a 3-and-out and taking a field goal, but then NC State took the lead? What in the first quarter did you see early on in this game?
Well, at first I was thinking maybe we should start running the ball a little bit more. I think 14 of the first 16 plays were passes.
That's correct.
I believe you like to have some more balance there. And in the end, Virginia Tech did pass it more than they threw it, but it...
You mean ran more than... Yes, you said pass more than through.
Didn't they?
Well, pass and through is the same thing.
Oh yeah, they passed it more. They passed it more than they ran it.
Yes, there you go.
But not by much. Not as
34
much.
passes, 31 rushes.
Exactly.
Yes,
yeah, and a couple of those were.
They
sacks,
ended up running the ball a lot more down the stretch.
Right. It ended up being a lot more balanced than it looked like it was going to be early on. And some of that early stuff is scripted, and some of that was NC State, that they were cramming some bodies up in the box. So you do want to get them out of the box to a certain extent. But in the end, they got the balance right. They just, every time they had a chance to lose that game, they didn't. And that's been an issue over the years. And Andy, I know you wrote about this, when they couldn't jump on the fumble. Right. You're like, well, we're
6 guys around that thing. I just like the screenshot is just like,
I know.
What? They didn't get that
well,
somehow?
You're going to lose now. Right. But they didn't. There was the other time where Drones made the perfect throw to Aiden Green down the left sideline.
Oh my gosh.
And he right in the breadbasket. And you're like, welp, I guess we just invented a new way to lose. But then 2 plays later, Drones made one of the best plays of his career. So they had multiple opportunities to lose this game.
Don't forget about the false start on the John Love, or the delay of game on the John Love field goal.
So you're sitting there, man. If John Love's ever going to miss a field goal, it'll probably be this one. But right after the delay of game, but he didn't. Multiple opportunities to have mental breakdowns and lose that game, but they kept their heads. They kept calm. They were a reflection of their head coach.
Yeah, and I think. There could have been a better choice in the staff than Montgomery to elevate. I think when we were talking about like J.C. Price, like, well, he's done it before. He is an emotional guy, right? Mm-hmm. He is a tried and true Virginia Tech guy. He coaches with emotion. I mean, he broke his damn hand giving a pregame speech at a Pinstripe Bowl. Didn't work. That I don't know if anything was going to help that team necessarily. He's standing on the sideline during the national anthem, and his hands like dripping blood. Like, this was a bad idea. I shouldn't have done this. He's a guy that his full heart is out there when he's coaching like that, and that might work if you're coaching for 1 or 2 games in a season. There's an entire ACC season ahead here. You needed somebody that could be sort of the calm in the storm in this whole thing, that had done it before, that, Montgomery speaks, forcefully, but not like aggressively. It feels like maybe it's different in practice. He uses an economy of words. He says what he doesn't say a lot, but he says what he means when he puts it out there. I guess his messaging is well received by the coaches. A lot of people have said that he sounds like Billy Bob Thornton. They're like, if somebody's going to play him in a movie, he sounds a lot like Billy Bob Thornton. And I can hear it. There's sort of like that, if you've watched Landman, you can kind of hear it a little bit.
I was thinking about starting that series recently. Is it good?
My wife likes it quite a bit. Go back and watch maybe like Friday Night Lights, see if you can hear some of the same Billy Bob Thornton thing. But I just feel like he is a guy who's done it and clearly has done it and was a very good choice for this job because, he's gotten a response from this team. They've shown up, they've played for him for 2 weeks, and we'll see how it plays out the rest of the season. But again, I just feel like this team at least has a chance in some of these ACC games. And you certainly didn't feel that way with Pry, with how the season started.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of question about, with so many guys entering the portals, opting out, who's on the roster, who's going to play, what's going on, right? Particularly, you look at like linebacker, where Virginia Tech doesn't have Caleb Woodson was out, didn't play. Michael Short's in the transfer portal. You have two guys in Caleb Spencer and Noah Chambers, a true freshman, his first collegiate action, step up. They're finding ways to. I know he didn't grade out necessarily well, but they're finding ways to get the most out of this group, I think, and it showed early in the game, even though they went down against NC State, and it showed as the game went on. Like they continued to rotate guys and figure out, and they're playing cohesively, right? I thought the energy was there. You don't see any guys dropping their heads or anything when they're down mentally. They're playing for their head coach. They're playing for each other. That's something you didn't necessarily see in those first couple weeks of the season. And I think they've really rallied around this message from Phil Montgomery. And it shows in even the tightest moments where it's like, oh man, there's a delay of game. We got to re-kick this again. John Love just made this field goal. And John Love takes accountability and says it's my bad and steps up and nails it. And it's a game-winning field goal, right? And even in the moments where you punt back to NC State, and NC State could have gone down the field and scores. You trust your defense stands up and makes the play. So I think just a lot of really good things, and you see the cohesiveness show up in a lot of those really tight moments.
Well, I think this is why you make the move when you made the move to fire Pry. And, it created all sorts of problems, the timing of it, doing after 3 weeks. So like, okay, now all these red shirts come into the play. It opens the portal for 30 days. Virginia Tech's kind of in this weird spot where like a lot of guys could make the decision to still redshirt and preserve a year, to try to gain another year of eligibility down the line. So it's like, why'd you do this now? Could you wait till like week 5 or 6? It's like, well, the team wasn't responding, right? And this is the hope that you remove the person at top, you put somebody else in new. I don't know if it's going to work out. I don't know if it's going to be a long-term thing. I doubt it if that's going to be the case, but you give it a shot and you hope that it sparks something. And it seems like it has so far because they've played much better these last 2 weeks, certainly relative to how they did the first 3.
Yeah, so let's go further into the fourth quarter when there are a couple of key points. But David has talked about the fact that John Love had to kick it twice. Just how much of an advantage is it to have a kicker you can really count on in those moments?
He's a national championship winning kicker, right? No question. He could play for any team in the country.
Yeah.
If the game's on the line, he's a guy you want. It's really, really hard to make the NFL as a kicker because there's those guys kick until they're mid-40s.
20 years.
Yeah.
Morton Anderson at 48 or whatever it was. Yeah.
So those jobs don't open up very often, but he's certainly going to have an opportunity to get one of those jobs at one. But it's funny that Tech has 2 starting kickers in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
Tech is like the cradle of kickers
Absolutely.
right now. Joey Sly, Parker, I think he just goes by Parker Romo right now.
Okay.
Yeah. It's less serial killer-ish if you drop the 3 name.
You're not
thing
wrong.
that goes along like that. I'm not saying he's a serial killer. I'm saying 3 names. But yeah, I mean, they've had a pretty good run of kickers. Brian Johnson was really good. He's stuck around for a while in the NFL as well. So it would be interesting to see, when John, I think he has another year of eligibility.
Yeah,
correct?
right.
When he would even want to try to go to the NFL there. But he is extremely consistent. I think he's 12 of 13 from 40 to 49, 4 of 7 in his career from 50 plus. One of those was blocked. One was a 59-yarder, which, come on, no expectations on something like that. He's just a very solid option there. That's got to be so comforting as a head coach to be like, this guy's going to go out there and make it. I guess the delay of game was on him, is what Montgomery said afterwards. I don't know exactly if he didn't see the clock correctly or didn't get lined up quick enough. He didn't really go into it at that point. But can you imagine if you're the kicker and the delay of game is your fault after you make the 44-yarder to go up and you're like, I better make this 49-yarder. I am going to get cussed out on the sideline if I don't do this. So, yeah, he came through right after that. It'd be interesting to talk to John and see his perspective on how that whole thing went down. But, man, he's just Mr. Automatic right now. It's got to be very comforting for Hokies fans to see him line up.
And his brother's committed to Virginia Tech.
Yeah, his brother's like the number 1 kicker in the country, I think, for coming out of high school. I mean, he's up to 7th all-time on Tech's all-time scoring list. He passed Chris Kinzer and Cody Jernell.
He's the 5th most accurate kicker of all time in the NCAA, right?
Yeah. Up there with, Nick Skiba, that Wake Forest kicker who never missed. I mean, somebody tweeted that the other day. And I mean, it's just when you've got a guy as accurate as him, his only miss on the year was that one against Wofford at the end of the game last week. And it's like, man, if Zeke Wimbush didn't step out of bounds, you know what I mean? If you get 7 yards, he's probably perfect on the year. He's shown it time and time again. He's 99 for 99 on extra points in his career, too. I mean, he's just very accurate. You know what you're going to get from him. You know what you're going to get from that entire special teams operation. And the fact that, I think, like we've talked about, a lot of Virginia Tech fans are probably sitting there going, we are so screwed. Like, we got to kick again. And this could be for the win.
Well, it was like the opener. They punt. They're like, nope, actually, you weren't lined up correctly. Have to do it again. You go, nothing good comes from a redo. Nothing good after you've successfully achieved the task the first time.
South Carolina game.
Yeah, I mean, it's sitting in the back of your mind. It's like, well, only disaster can happen after this. And he nailed it. They went up.
Especially as a Tech fan, after all these one-score losses the last few years, you just automatically expect something to go wrong.
Right. That's the difference. That's the line between winning and losing on that stuff, is you don't screw up a situation like that.
And the biggest play, I think, of that entire drive was the Benji Gosnell catch. Where Drones is rolling back. He's at his own 35. He basically threw it 30 yards through the air and just dumped it in there.
I thought that was going to be offensive pass interference when I saw it live, and then they showed the replay, and I'm like, he didn't really push off. He just kind of jumped. And the other guy mistimed his jump a little bit or didn't get high enough on it.
I wish I had written this in my article yesterday, but it reminded me of the Michael Brewer throw to Sam Rogers against Ohio State when he rolled to his right and just flipped it over the defense, and Sam Rogers picked up the first down. This one was a bigger gain, I think, but it was pretty much the exact same play.
Yeah. I mean,
Brewer made a lot of throws like that in that game. That was the game of his life.
Yep.
Yeah. But just a lot of plays, like a play like that down the stretch. Like if you don't get that, NC State gets the ball back, and who knows? Just converting in very tight situations, something that Virginia Tech hasn't been used to in close games the last couple of years.
So that put Virginia Tech up 23-21. And now I want to talk about a couple key moments at this point. 4th and 1 at their own 40, and the temptation is there to go for it, but Philip Montgomery chooses to punt the football. What did you make of that decision? Were you shocked at all by it? What was going through your head?
I wasn't really surprised. I would have done the same thing. Now, they probably would have picked it up if he'd gone for it. So what's the percentage there, Andy? It's something like
I think they said like 72%. Those are generic numbers. That's not like plugging in how they had been doing.
Yeah, I think for Tech, when you've got two big guys like Drones and Stewart, you're probably going to pick it up. But if you don't, do the math on what are the chances you win the game if you don't pick it up. Because they're a first down from being in field goal range. They've got enough time to score a touchdown. So the math says if you don't get it, they are most likely going to take the lead and you won't have any time left. And if you do have a little bit of time left, you don't exactly have the passing game to move it down the field. I think you're in a situation where you have to make them earn it. So I would have done that too. I would have understood it if he went for it. And like I said, I think if they had gone for it, they probably would have gotten it, and we wouldn't really even be having this conversation. But I think he did there what I would have done.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I said go for it. I'm always on team go for it. I think the analytics said, better percentage to go for it, to win the game. You're an interim coach of a 1-3 team. you know, what do you have to lose, right? I mean, nobody at all would have faulted him for going for it in that situation. And on top of that, you know, Montgomery is an offensive coordinator, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have confidence in your offense that they can do anything. You got Kyron Drones in his ear. Kyron said, you know, I'm telling him like 8 times, let's finish this. Let's end this thing. I mean, the temptation had to be strong to go for it there. I think they could have gotten it. Again, it's a risk, though. I mean, you could end the game right there. That's the benefit of going for it. On the other hand, you punt it deep. They've got no timeouts. Defense has played okay. I mean, he said, you know, defense has been playing well. It's like, yeah, they did give up 2 75-yard touchdown drives in the second half, too. So, I mean, it's a whole thing. You could go back and forth on it. He made the decision. It worked. It was great. You know, Kyron Drones is like, we're going to have a talk tomorrow. I'm going to let him enjoy this bus ride back. But first thing tomorrow, we're going to talk about, you know, needing a yard and putting it in my hands, because he wanted that opportunity so bad. But those are the kind of decisions as a head coach that are just incredibly tough to do, because how do you make it? How do you make that decision? You're going to live with it. You're going to live with criticism from, you know, fans and idiot sports writers like myself, regardless of what you do. So, you know, it's a tough spot to be in, but clearly he made the right choice. They won the game.
Well, ask the Ravens. They went for it on 4th and 1 from their own 40 yesterday. Didn't get it. Just like that, 40-yard drive for a touchdown. They ended up getting blown out, but this was in the first half when they did it, and it was a close game.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, you
David
see
knows.
that, though. But, I
Right.
mean, how many times have, like, the Lions, you know, Dan Campbell, Mr. Go For It on 4th down, have they sustained drives early on where they get a 4th and 1 from their own 40, and you don't hear about it again because it didn't blow up in their face about it. You know, that's a reason why the analytics are there, and you trust the math a little bit on those decisions. Sometimes you do have to trust your gut, though. And, you know, Montgomery, you know, I wouldn't call him like a new age coach.
Right.
I mean, he's 53. He's been around the block. He's been a head coach for a while. So maybe leans into those, you know, older school tendencies and stuff like that. But like I say, he seriously entertained the thought. He said so afterwards. And I have to imagine that the you know, the chance of going for it there had to be, you know, pretty interesting in his mind.
I think it's refreshing that he doesn't let his emotions rule him.
It's true.
I think he's like the perfect age for a head coach. He's young enough where he can adapt to the analytic stuff, but he's old enough where, you know, he doesn't let them completely dominate his line.
He's got 8 years of head coaching experience, and he's younger than Brent Pry.
That's true.
I mean, think about that, right? And you're talking about a coach that you can tell he's been a head coach before. Like you were talking about J.C. Price earlier, right? I'm not. This is not me saying that J.C. Price would have done something different. But you just talked about J.C. Price coaches with emotion, like a heart on the sleeve type of thing. Phil Montgomery comes out and goes, man, I really want to go for it, but I think this is in the best interest of the team. And right. And in a situation like that, it's really, do you want the ball in your court? And do you want to have the opportunity to close it out? Or do you want to go on the defensive? Virginia Tech's defense had, on the previous 4 drives, 75-yard touchdown drive, then forced a 3-and-out. 75-yard touchdown drive, forced a 3-and-out. And it's, do you trust your defense in that moment? And he did. And it's hard because if you trust your defense, you pump the ball back. You don't know if you're going to get the ball back. You probably aren't. And unless your defense comes up and makes a stop. If they drive down the field, kick a field goal, there's a good chance you have no time left. Or you can try to close it out. You know what? He made the decision. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to trust my defense. And the defense, I think, rallied and responded and said, you know what? We got to step up and make a play. And they did.
Yes.
And I thought that's the biggest thing. Like, if the defense doesn't, if you don't have a buy-in belief in the coach, like, oh man, we got to go out there, like we're nervous, whatnot. The coach saying, hey, I trust you guys, go make a play. And they did. And it wasn't, I mean, NC State was faced with like 4th and 10 pretty much. I mean, it was back against the wall. So I think he made the right decision. I thought everything leading up to it went right because they ran the right plays and made NC State burn all its timeouts too. They ran that Rutgers play.
The Rutgers play,
Oh my
which
gosh.
will forever be called
They ran the Rutgers play.
Such a great shorthand for like,
was like 3rd
people
and
that
2.
know the program. I got some people who's like, what is the Rutgers play? I'm like, you don't know ball if you don't know what the Rutgers
It was
play
3rd
is.
and short, and they run that play, and they extend the drive, and NC State has to burn timeouts, and it's just like, that's how you execute with the game on the line. And I know you had to punt back, but man, you couldn't have asked for anything better. The only thing that could have been better is that they had gotten it and closed it out.
Right. There's one point I want to make about the Tech defense in this. If you look at NC State's 3 touchdown drives, they had to make 3 really exceptional passing plays to get them. So like their first touchdown drive, they hit the deep ball to Jolie, their tight end, and it was good coverage by Thomas Williams. It was just a perfect NFL type throw to first team All ACC tight end preseason.
Was that the one up the sideline that got down to the goal line?
Yes.
Okay.
Up the right.
He missed the guy over the middle.
Yeah,
who was wide open for the touchdown.
Right.
So.
But that was a perfectly executed throw. And their second touchdown, it was that flag route. And
that was a great
Flowers
throw.
had pretty good coverage.
Yeah, that was a tight
you
pass
had to put it into a tight window. And their third touchdown, what set it up was he threaded the needle over the middle to the receiver, and Flowers almost got there and picked it off. Like he had to put it in a really tight window to complete that. So their 3 touchdowns, they had to earn. He had to make 3 NFL throws to set up all 3 or score all 3 of their touchdowns. So I thought that the Tech defense was able to operate with a minimal level of mental errors for the most part. And I think that's one of the reasons why Montgomery felt good about putting them back on the field. He felt like if NC State was going to score, it was going to be because they earned it, not because Virginia Tech was going to go out there and blow a coverage or something.
And that's
like
what
that.
the trust,
Right.
right? Because if your defense has been getting gashed, you feel really bad about putting them back out in that situation.
Right.
And you mentioned the Ravens. I've seen the Ravens do that all too many times where you have the opportunity to go for it, close out the game. Your offense has been better than your defense. You take it out of Lamar Jackson's hand, right? In this situation, you put your defense out on the field because you trust them and they go make a play.
That indeed. 4th and 1 would be a recurring story throughout the day. NC State went for it to begin the second quarter, didn't get it. We just mentioned that Virginia Tech punts it on their 4th and 1. Well, the game comes down to a 4th and 1 for NC State, like you just mentioned. The defense has to make a stop, and Christian Ellis makes the play. How spectacular was that play to make from his perspective?
It's just terrific timing. Terrific execution. Same thing on the deep ball in the end zone that he broke up. It was perfect.
He had 3 breakups on the day.
Yeah, that's the one in the end zone is exactly how you're coached to do it. I know whenever fans see like a deep ball completed and the defensive back doesn't turn around, and they're like, well, why didn't you turn around? Well, you're not coached to turn around, because if you turn around and the ball goes by your head while you're in the process of turning around, it's going to be a touchdown. Right? So you're not coached to turn around. You're coached to read the receiver's eyes and use his eyes to tell you when to put your hands up. And Ellis just did it perfectly.
Explode up through the catch to break
Exactly.
it up. Yeah, the 4th one at the end, Ellis, that just looked like good film study on that one. Like he just knew. First of all, they line up in a shotgun on 4th and 1. As a Virginia Tech fan, you're probably feeling good about that. Like you only need 1 yard and you have the ACC's leading rusher, and you're clearly not going to run it with him at this point. Probably. I mean, maybe they could have spread it out and ran it, but Ellis broke on that play like he knew it was coming. Jolly's their go-to guy in that situation. He made a great jump on it, didn't interfere with him. Lunge with the left hand out there and knocked it away. It was just a great play, and I think it's a credit to preparation for that moment. That it seemed like he knew what they were going to go to in that key situation. He made the play.
I don't think I've seen an individual Virginia Tech football player that excited in a long, long time. As Christian
There's
Ellis
a great photo of him on the sideline doing like the shushing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it was a good play, and to do it right in front of the Virginia Tech sideline.
Oh yeah,
I mean, then there's Montgomery jumping into the air right as he's making the play right over there. I mean, it ended in a perfect fashion for the Hokies.
Yeah, after the game, Ellis talked about, he was like, we know Jolie's the tight end. He's their go-to guy, and in a big situation like that, they're going to him, especially the way that Virginia Tech, and I'm sure we'll get into this later, defended Hollywood Smothers all day. And they go to the tight end, you make a play, and even going back to that third down, it's 3rd and 8, and Tech made two guys I think made big open field tackle to hold them short of the line, right? So it's like doing all the little things right, few mental errors. Ellis comes up, makes a huge play. I don't know that I've seen a Virginia Tech sideline quite erupt like that in a very long time. It was a well-deserved play and well-deserved win.
Yeah, one more piece on the overall thoughts. You mentioned just the energy change. How impactful can it be to win in that fashion for Philip Montgomery and the group moving forward?
I think confidence is huge in football. If you lack confidence, you're going to get a 65-0 run put on you at home. But the more you win, the more you understand how to win, so to speak. And the more you get into those situations, you're more confident that you can do it. And so I think you've got a chance to stack some wins on top of each other now. You beat Wofford, which of course you were supposed to do, but then you come away with a win on the road against NC State when nobody thought you were going to win. Now you've got a Wake Forest team at home with an injured quarterback, and you've got a chance to put 3 wins together, which only happened once during the Brent Pry era. And then you can go into that middle part of your schedule with some confidence.
Yeah, I mean, just think of what the vibe check would be that's different in the football building today. If you're 1-4 with a heartbreaking loss versus 2-3, first 1-score win in a while, first ACC win in since last year. You're beating an FBS opponent. You hadn't done that this season. You can talk about, we're going to come in here, we're going to keep putting in the work. Keep a level head about this stuff. Very proud of this team, how they handled the transition and all that stuff like that. But if you don't get the result at the end of it, the positive result, it's tough to continue preaching that and be like, no, if you keep doing this, we're going to get good results eventually. So getting that sort of reinforcement at the end of this whole thing, I think it has to do wonders for that locker room. And it's like, I would imagine there was a little bit extra pep in the step yesterday by guys at practice. Yeah. That if they lose that game 24-23 on a last second field goal, how dejected might you have been? Even if the effort was better, the result was the same, and that would have hurt.
Yeah, I mean, on the road against an ACC team, and I think so many people, I mean, even us included, it's like, yeah, Tech's probably not going to do much this season. We talked about how there are a few wins left on the schedule, and they went out there and proved that they could win, and they earned it. And I'm sure it's lots of smiles over there, and we saw Montgomery dancing after the game. I mean, it's always fun to talk to players and coaches after they win, and even more so after a win like that where so many people have doubted you, and you're like, yeah, man, we did what we had to do to win. And again, it wasn't like Virginia Tech backdoored its way in there. It was well earned.
Nobody believed in us, right? That was actually the case this time.
Yes.
Like Narble is like, oh, nobody believed in us. It's like, you won the national championship last year. Everybody believed in you in your journey. Nobody believed in my talent. You were a 5-star recruit in high school. Right. Everybody believed in you coming out of high school. I don't think a lot of people believed in this team going into this one. Myself included. I think a lot of people on this set here, they went out there, they proved us wrong in this one. So yeah, good time to crow about it a little. Yep. You've earned that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Any pointers for Coach on the dance moves moving forward?
Not for me.
Yeah, you're probably asking the wrong people on that.
Well, before we get to some further breakdown, we have some great numbers from this game, which are very impactful. And so we are going to hear from David some numbers, stat time with Scott Glesner, some great facts right here.
Yeah, we will start. There are 6 of them on here, and then I've got something to add on my own at the end. The last time a VT opponent had under 10 penalty yards was 2017 Pitt, which, if you recall, was a win on a goal line stand at In-Lane Stadium.
Absolutely.
He said VT is 14-1 in the last 15 times the opponent had fewer than 10 penalty yards. The only loss was 2013 BC. That spans from 1963. Virginia Tech is over 40% on third down conversions for each of its last 5 games, the longest streak since the 6-game span in 2016, which was last 6 games of that season. Virginia Tech has allowed points every time this season when its opponent has gotten to the red zone. 16 trips, 14 of those were touchdowns, 2 field goals. Tech is averaging 4.9 points per red zone trip this season, while opponents are averaging 6.5. Tech has allowed at least 1 sack in 19 straight games, longest streak since the 24-game streak from 2018 to 2020. The Hokies have 3 straight games of 400-plus total yards, the longest streak since the first 6 games of the 2020 season. In the last one, this was the 7th straight time Virginia Tech has won 2+ games in a row after coming off a losing streak of 4+ games. The last time Tech did not do that was 1988. The other thing I want to add, so Tech was a 10-point underdog in this game. First time Virginia Tech has won outright against a double-digit underdog against an ACC team, Miami in 2019, the Hendon Hooker game. Tech was,
Right.
I think, a 14-point dog and won outright by 7. The last time against any team, Tech was a double-digit dog and won outright was that Liberty game in 2022. Last one-score game.
Okay, so this did get to a 10 point. I thought it was like 9.5 when it went off.
I
Probably
thought-
different books had different numbers.
It was 10.
When I wrote the preview last week, it was 10.5.
It was, yeah.
yeah, it came down a little
yeah,
bit before
yeah,
game
okay.
time, so in that range.
Right.
Well, those were some great numbers. We're going to dive into some starring individuals after a message from one of our great sponsors at Tech Sideline.
Are you ready for a custom home tailored to your distinctive lifestyle? At Tyrus Homes, a leading custom home builder in the New River Valley, we pride ourselves on crafting exceptional residences that our clients love to call home. Whether you're a first-time buyer, a growing family in search for more room, an active adult seeking a relaxing retreat, or looking for a higher-end custom home that offers luxury and sophistication, we have the perfect solution for you. Discover how you can bring your dream home to life at tyrushomes.com. That's TYRIS homes.com.
All right, well, let's start talking about some of the more individual stars from this game, and let's go to Virginia Tech's offense first. What did you make of Kyron Drone's performance as the quarterback in this contest?
Well, he certainly made plays when he had to make plays. Like I said, the deep ball to Aiden Green, I thought that was the best deep ball he's thrown in his whole career. That's just he's normally not the type that just drops it in there with precision while the receiver's on the run. Like when he completes a deep ball, it's like the wide receiver has to go up and get it or something like that, or it's down the sideline and he makes a great catch. That was just like your perfect deep ball, hitting the guy in stride, putting it right over the defender. I thought that was his best deep ball of his career that I can remember. And then 2 plays later, he made that play where they did an all-out blitz, and he just outruns them to the side and flips it up to Gosnell. So he had a lot of plays like that where he just made individual plays that were top-notch, and Virginia Tech needed every one of them.
I'm trying to remember the deep ball to Green. Was that the one that he was like sliding sort of by the sideline?
That was the one that Charlie Wiles was pissed about a holding call on.
Because it was a holding call. I mean, it was pretty blatant once Drones like rolled out to the side. You could see the jersey hold by somebody. I thought for sure that play was coming back on that one, but that was a nice catch. I thought, the touchdown pass he had to Marcellus Hawkins, where he stood in there, and they've got a blitz on, and this guy's coming at him, and as a quarterback, you're just like, I'm going to get destroyed on this one. And he stood there, and he delivered a perfect ball, and Hawkins was open because NC State committed so many guys to the blitz. I mean, I thought that was a good pass for the punishment he was going to take right after that. I thought he got some tough yards running the ball. Gave him a chance on that to get into that 4th and 1 on that I think it was a 3rd and 7 run that he had to get 1 yard away. That was sort of a determination run to get there. So, not a perfect game by any means. Receivers didn't help him out with some drops as well in that game, but he played well enough to win, and that's all you ask of your quarterback.
Yeah, I felt like Kyron was very composed. There was a couple times where NC State got in the backfield and got him down, but he stayed kind of level-headed, and he made some of those wild plays where he's rolling, he's scrambling out, and that Aiden Green catch was ridiculous. I mean, he's dragging his feet and he hauls it in, and between that and the Gosnell play, I mean, both of those set up points, and when you can extend plays like that, even if it's just a field goal, which John Love hit 3 of those, and they matter quite a bit, versus not getting any points, throwing it away in a situation like that. I thought he did a very good job. It wasn't perfect all game, but he controlled it pretty well. And the other thing is, when you've got a balanced running game to go off of, you can tell that it just lifts him. Lifts Drones. It's a big weight off of his shoulders.
Yeah, and 177 yards on 34 attempts. That's a very low yards per attempt number. I don't know what it is because I can't do math in my head. So it's not going to be like one of his more efficient games, as far as quarterback rating and all that, most likely. But
He's 177 per 34 attempts.
5.2.
5.2. That's extremely low number. You want a number over 7. Ideally 7.5 or 8 or more. But it's one of those games you have to watch. You can't just look at a box score. And he just made plays when he had to make plays.
What did you make of his ability to spread it around to different playmakers on the field?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you don't have like one dominant player, you kind of have to do that. Cam Seldon led the team in receiving. That's not something that thought didn't go through my head while I was watching the game until I looked at the box score at the end, and I'm like, wow, Cam Seldon led us in receiving. I remember the touchdown, of course, and a couple of others, but I was glad to see them. They got Isaiah Spencer involved early too, and I think he can be an effective player for the Hokies this year. And that's a play that we probably need to mention too. That early punt return that set the Hokies up at the NC State 39. They got a field goal out of that. The special teams play.
Yeah.
We talked about how bad NC State was in coverage coming into this, and that's one of the things that was the difference.
You mentioned Spencer, one of those plays that Drones had where he was retreating away from pressure, going to his left, and kind of got away from it and then turned back and threw it all the way across the field. I mean, it was a really long throw. I think he gained like 14, 15 yards on the play or whatever it was. But it was a long throw across the field that, if you don't do it right, hanging the ball up there like that could be trouble for the defense coming in trying to pick that off. So that was another one of those nice plays that didn't go for huge yards, but I think that was a third down pickup and kept the drive alive. So that was a pretty critical play there.
Yeah, I mean, just you see some guys just making plays. Seldon, Spencer, Aiden Green. That was a 14-yard return by Spencer, Chris, that set Tech up at the 40, and then Tech only had to go about 20 yards for Love's first field goal. Yeah, I mean, I think, we saw Seldon make a couple big plays. I mean, spreading around like he ran that Rutgers play, went to Hairston, Jurikis Hairston.
Yeah.
Big catch. I mean, you just see them. Tech has weapons, and I think you've seen Kyron try to, get it to whoever's open, and there are a lot of different guys. When you can be effective in moving the ball, I think you can see a lot of different guys kind of pop up, and we saw Takai Heath again for the first time in a while. I know I think he had like a screen that went for like -3 yards, but they tried to get a bunch of different people involved, and a lot of it was successful.
Yeah, let's give a quick shout out to Jurikis Hairston, former walk-on. He was a quarterback at Bassett High School, which is just down the road, and that was a big throw and catch for the first down in this game, and so it's good to see him get involved.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a couple big plays now for Tech this year, catching
had a touchdown,
catches, paving the way for Kyron a couple weeks back.
Meanwhile, you go to the ground game. 174 yards for Terrion Stewart in his return, including an 85-yard scamper. He really feels like he
called
could
a
make
shot,
difference
man.
I can see why they call him the bully.
Bully ball, yeah.
Yeah.
Impressive game. I think what I was struck by him is you look at him and you look at his body type and you go, he's just going to run people over. It's like, I think somebody on Twitter described him as a Darren Sproles type who looks like he ate a second Darren Sproles, which I think is a great description of him. I mean, he's a tiny guy, but he's got some moves. It's not like they give him the ball and he just runs people over. Now, he did on that one play where he got out to the outside, the NC State guy got in his way and he just kind of like shoved him over. It was a great
photo of that, too.
Great gif of that whole thing. Yeah, Ivan got a excellent photo of that thing. But when he got the ball, he was patient with it, and he kind of would jump and move in different ways and cut. It wasn't like he just got the ball and ran straight to the line. He got, sometimes you get those power runners. It's like, if you need 1 yard, I'll get you 3. If you need 5 yards, I'll get you 3, right? That's all they're capable of. He seems like he's capable of more than that, and certainly showed it on that 85-yard run. I think, his first 9 runs, he had 6 first downs.
I believe that's right.
And it wasn't like it was third and short. He was picking, it was first and 10, and he's going for 11, 12, 14. Breaks that 85-yarder and, showed a good open field ability. I know they caught him, but man, the big man ran 85 yards to get there. That's a pretty good run.
And he stayed in the game after that play too.
Yeah.
I was disappointed that he didn't get rewarded.
So I think like a lot of people
out?
No, by scoring a touchdown.
Right.
Yeah.
You do all the work and then somebody else gets in the end zone. I think a lot of people like, oh, where was this the first couple of weeks? Like, well, he's been nicked up. I mean, they held him out of Wofford specifically to get him healthy completely for this
Great decision.
ACC opener. Excellent decision. He missed a lot of the preseason bumps and bruises here and there. I don't think he didn't travel for the South Carolina game, or he didn't play.
Right.
Certainly didn't play in that one. So he's been working his way back from stuff. Him being in there, you give him a 1-2 punch with him and Marcellus Hawkins. I think he can do some things. And again, the offensive line blocked well too. That was the first time we've seen that lineup with Johnny Garrett, left tackle, Remack at left guard. Finally got some guys back there, and it showed. They played better running the ball.
Yeah, and I want to point out that most of his broken tackles came once he got to the linebacker depth. So the offensive line's job is to get the running back to linebacker depth. And after that, it's on the running back and wide receiver blocking, of course.
As opposed to Tootin, who was doing it 1/10 of a second after getting the ball.
A lot of times, yes.
Backfield.
Exactly. So that's pretty much how you draw it up, man. Hopefully he can stay healthy because, obviously Virginia Tech's offense is going to be so much better. Now, I thought Hawkins, he should have got out of bounds on that one run. But did you see the guys he was making miss in the open field on that? I mean, he was juking him. He wasn't running over him, but they couldn't tackle him. It was very impressive. But Stewart forced 11 missed tackles in this game. Bishal Tutin's best game as a Hokie in the run game, he forced 10 missed tackles.
Yeah, I think it was like the most in Tech history, or at least under the analytics
era,
whatever.
In the PFF era.
It was the third most this week nationally. Mm-hmm. So, pretty good job.
Yep.
Career high in rushing yards. That was a career long, the 85-yard run. He told me after the game he called it. Like the offensive line was like, "I got you." He was like, "Okay, watch this." And it was like he followed Johnny Garrett, who pulled Johnny, and then he made one guy miss, two guys miss, burst into the open field, and there was another guy, an NC State defender at like the 40 that he pushed away and got away from.
Tech's two running backs in this game, Stewart and Hawkins, averaged 11.6 and 11.8 yards per carry.
Yep. That'll win you some games.
That's nuts. I mean, you factor in all Drones' runs and sacks and stuff like that, and a team loss at the end there of -6, 7.4 yards per carry. But man, your two starting running backs average better than a first down every single carry of the game.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, like, man, they only had 31 rushes in that game?
Right.
Maybe should have had a bit more.
We're on the dang ball, man.
Yeah.
Stewart's first three touches, 14, 13, and 10. He only had 5 rushing attempts at halftime. And then he finished with 15. His next two after halftime went for 11 and 11. And then he had the 85-yard one Raider. I mean, he only lost 1 yard. I mean, he had just as many rushes for double-digit yards as he did for fewer than double-digit yards, which is just kind of crazy to think about. But he just adds a different element to this offense. Like when you've got a guy who can break tackles, and even if he's picking up 5, 6, 7, like he does such a great job of always pushing his body forward and kind of bouncing off guys, and that's an element that Virginia Tech didn't have in the first couple weeks of the year.
His balance is insane.
Yeah.
His first run, he was like bent over forward. His chest was parallel to the ground, and he managed to stay on his feet and pick up like an extra 10 yards, like just running with his chest to the ground. You don't see anything like that, very rarely at least. He's the type of running back that makes defenders, especially like safeties and even some linebackers, they're not going to be quite so anxious to get off their blocks and step onto those train tracks, which in turn will help the offensive line with run blocking.
Yeah.
Who was that LSU running back a couple years ago? Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Body types feel similar, right? And that was a very effective runner there. I'm not saying he's going to be of that level. I think that guy was a first-round pick. Didn't work out with the Chiefs necessarily, but like in college, he was a very effective runner, and that's a tough body type to get on the ground. Like just low center of gravity. You try to hit him, he's doling out punishment to you. I think there's certainly a place for that in this offense, and I'm eager to see how much they're going to use him in the future here.
It's funny, we had joked a little bit about Jamari Taylor, who went to UVA, and that was the guy that Tech was accused of tampering with, and it's like, man, like Virginia Tech should have tampered with this guy. And then you see Terrion Stewart go do that, and it's like, okay, that's the running back that Tech went after instead.
Elijah Brooks knows running backs.
Yes, and I think it was just a matter of time. Like you could, when you, in hindsight, you look back at those first couple games and go, man, what could have Virginia Tech had done if it had him in those first couple games? That's why nobody's been talking about him, because he's been banged up. He hasn't been fully healthy. And then you see what he can do when he's fully healthy.
That South Carolina game was close into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Right? So who knows? But also shout out Scott Loeffler, who told Terrion Stewart that Virginia Tech would be a great landing
and
spot
his run
for
game
him.
coordinator.
That's right.
Greg
Nosal.
Who called him the steroid hamster?
Steroid gerbil.
Steroid gerbil hamster? Okay.
Same difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A playoff muscle hamster. I think that was that Boise State running
Doug
back.
Martin.
Yeah.
Well, let's flip to the defensive end for Virginia Tech. What did you make of their attempt to limit C.J. Bailey? They had 5 sacks on the day and trying to stop the passing attack.
See, they designed a good passing attack for him. He's an extremely accurate quarterback. So you knew he was going to complete a high percentage of his passes. It's just you don't want to let them go for big plays. And Virginia Tech was mostly successful with that. I mean, you had gains of 27, 24, and 22 yards by NC State, but they didn't have a 30-yard gain the entire game. And this is an offense that put up the previous week about 550 yards on Duke or something like that. And they've been scoring over 30 points a game their last 3 games. This is an offense that had been pretty much doing anything they wanted over the season so far. And so for what Virginia Tech did was very impressive. I think it starts with stopping the running game. I mean, it was not Hollywood Smothers this game. It was Bollywood Smothers. He just a B-list running back for this game.
No,
Longest game
the
was...
Bollywood fans are going to be all over the
They're gonna be
comments
angry,
now.
I know. Longest run was only 11 yards, and I remember that play. If Virginia Tech had it played perfectly, it was... just one of the linebackers came up and just didn't run through it. He just kind of waited for Smothers to get there and just kind of tried to drag him down rather than run through him. And, that doesn't work as a linebacker. But other than that, I just thought they were very good, and Virginia Tech beat them in the trenches, and which is what Dave Doran said after the game.
Yeah, I mean, Tech is playing an NC State team that had the ACC's leading rusher coming in. And that team finished with 59 rushing yards. I know sack yards play into that whole thing, but Smothers had 67. That's a really good job on a guy who is a dangerous runner out there. So they didn't get beat on the ground. 1.8 yards per carry. You'll take that every single game. That is very effective. Forced them to the air. I know they got some yards in the air, but it ultimately didn't beat them. So, good job by the defense. And like we said before, a lot of different guys contributing. A lot of young guys got on the field, see if they're going to get some run here as the season goes on. Some guys that we haven't heard a whole lot of this year making plays. Isaiah Cash made plays in that game. I'm blanking on the guy who made the game-winning
Christian
Ellis. Okay, I mean, hadn't heard a whole lot from him this season. He had a good game as well. So a lot of different guys contributed to this win. I think that's a good sign for this defense, because I think they're going to have a total team effort and a lot of contributors for this thing to take off.
They narrowed their rotation a lot this game. I forget the exact numbers, but I think the South Carolina game, they played like 28 players, and like 25 of them played 10 or more snaps, and none of them played more than 45 snaps. And in this game, I think they only had like maybe 20 guys. They had like 3 or 4 fewer players in their rotation, and some of those guys were only played like 3 snaps, 2 snaps, things like that. And you had some guys going over 50 snaps. I thought they were rotating too much earlier in the season. Some of this player exodus has helped them out a little bit there, I think, because I think they were playing too many safeties before. But they also, because they've lost so many guys recently, they had to get some young guys involved. And a shout out to Sheldon Robinson, who was their highest graded defender in this game. Played, I believe, 23 snaps as a true freshman, tackled really well. I had him, in my own personal star rankings, I had him as a 4-star recruit. And Noah Chambers, his overall grade wasn't great, but that's because he struggles in pass protection. His run defense grade was like 75 or something like that. He was a big improvement for Virginia Tech against the run. He's fast. Like the sack he made, he came from the opposite side of the field. Now, Bailey needs to throw that football away. That was a boneheaded play on his part, but that just shows off Chambers'
He
athleticism.
had 3 tackles on his first three plays.
Yeah.
If Bailey was a little better at throwing the ball away,
Right.
then 65% completion percentage on buy or sell would have hit the
I
under
know.
on that,
What a jerk.
No, I mean, that third drive of the game, Virginia Tech got 5 true freshmen in there.
Yeah.
There was Chambers, Robinson, Brett Clatterbaugh, JoJo Krim, and Knowledge Harrell. So that's dedication to getting these young guys a look and see what they can do against, this ACC play. There's no guarantee you're going to win this game or that it's not going to be a close game. And they're making dedicated, intentional effort to put those guys in when the game is still in play. So we'll see how much they continue to do that. Do you try to play around with the 4-game thing and keep the red shirt for those guys? I would imagine they probably would. Then again, if they think they're ready and they're going to play a role in the future here, maybe you play them and you just get them ready for next year.
Andy mentioned Smothers, how good he's been. He was the only ACC back averaging over 100 yards per game, and he was averaging 6.3 yards per carry. He's held to 4.2. In the first half, NC State had 0.9 yards per carry as a team. I thought Virginia Tech just did a really good job of being in the right spots. You saw it on that big stop in the first half Tech had where Caleb Spencer just came in, filled the gap,
And that's
stopped
why he
him.
ran through the ball carrier, which is what Keller didn't do on the 11-yard run that I was talking about earlier. That was a great form tackle.
Caleb Spencer's a guy who we haven't seen much of this year because Caleb Woodson and Michael Short have kind of been the top 2 guys. Short's in the portal. Woodson's out, presumably with an injury. Caleb Spencer was terrific. This is back-to-back weeks where he's played very well. There was a point where I think it was at the end of the first half, he and Noah Chambers had a combined 14 tackles. They entered the game with a career combined 13, all Spencer, because Chambers never played a snap.
Right.
And so it's just like you get contributions from a lot of these guys, and they sacked C.J. Bailey 5 times. He had only been sacked 4 times in the first 4 games. And they did it in a bunch of different ways. One of those was on intentional grounding. But I thought they did a really good job of mixing up what they were showing him, kind of getting off edges. Elash Fall had one where he just kind of threw Bailey down, I think in the second half. Just some really good plays from a lot of different guys all around. That's what you call a team effort as far as getting to Bailey. And he still completed like 72% of his passes. But rattling him and, when you can basically take Smothers out of the game, makes NC State one-dimensional a little bit.
Yeah, it does. A guy I want to shout out is also Jason Abbey. Played his career high snaps at defensive end. He also had a sack on probably another play that Bailey could have thrown away, but that's okay. Abbey's a guy who, whenever he's gotten in the game before, has always shown something positive. And where I'm come from, if you do that, then you should get more playing time. And he finally got it. It took Keyshawn Burgos leaving to get it, but he looks like a better football player than Burgess, who had regressed this year, quite frankly. So I think Virginia Tech has actually improved at that edge position behind Ben Bell now. I think they have a better backup now, now that Burgos is gone and Jason Abbey's in there. But I think that's a positive move as well.
He has one game, 1 sack. Burgos didn't have any.
Burgos had not made a solo tackle this year.
Yeah. Isaiah Cash, Noah Chambers, Ben Bell, Jason Abbey, and Elash Fall were the 5 guys with sacks, and Tech had 8 TFLs. And again, when you can be disruptive like that, I know NC State had 3 touchdown drives where they went 75 yards. But the other drives, Virginia Tech, it was punt 3 and out. Tech walled them up on that Spencer play, punt 3 and out, punt 3 and out, punt 3 and out, turnover on downs. So a little bit of bend, don't break in some spots.
Want to lean a little bit more into the conversation you mentioned about these young players getting in. We had the availability report this past week. Did this last game provide any further clarity to who may still be here for the long haul, or is there still some to be figured out?
I think Caleb Woodson seemed awfully fired up on the sideline and looked like somebody who wanted to be at Virginia Tech.
He did. Also, they just haven't told us anything oh, he's injured.
Right.
If they came out and said that, maybe I'd feel a little bit more comfortable about that. Quentin Reddish was not there. So he's not available in the game. I don't know if that's an injury situation, if it's something more.
His brother got into the game for 3 snaps.
So there are still questions about this. I think those questions are dwindling, certainly now that a lot of guys are now past the redshirt threshold. It doesn't pay to try to sit out at this point. If you've already used the year, and October 1st is coming up here, so those redshirt payments are coming here. Maybe that's something to keep an eye on. But there's only a few guys now where it's still a question of whether they redshirt and if they can recoup the year, and whether it's better spent sitting out or playing the rest of this year.
You mentioned the availability report. Somebody who was moved off of it, I believe, was day of the game was Shamarius Peterkin, and he almost had a catch.
He almost did, yeah.
He caught it. It was a deep ball down the sideline. He caught it, but he was out of bounds. Yeah. But he's somebody we haven't really seen of. He comes in, almost makes a play. I think a lot of that situation's still in flux. But we talk about how fun it is. That's a game, I think, if you're on the fence, you're somebody who's like considering your future. It's like, man, that was a fun game to be part of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fun locker room to be part of.
Yeah, for sure. If you looked at the availability report before the game, compared both teams' availability report, you'd be like, man, NC State's going to win this game, right? But it's funny that you can actually publish a list of players who aren't going to play, and you can still manage to win the football game. How about that?
It's true, yeah. Maybe you don't need to be so secretive about everything.
Indeed.
Well, to wrap up thoughts on the game, how truly important was this win based on the upcoming schedule for Virginia Tech to open conference play with this win?
Very important. I think if they had lost it, it would have been a lost opportunity. They'll have a great chance to beat Wake this weekend. We'll talk more about that on Thursday, but they have a highly mobile quarterback who spent the second half of the game the other day with his knee in a brace and heavily taped below the brace. He can't really run right now. Virginia Tech's got a great chance to win that game. Virginia Tech's not ranked, which means they can beat Georgia Tech.
That's right.
Georgia Tech plays its best football against ranked teams, and they lose just enough games to unranked teams to make the ranked teams overlook them.
And frankly, they should have lost this last week.
If the
they
Wake
got bailed
quarterback-
out. No, they got bailed out by the refs.
Right,
The guy was offsides,
Yeah.
and the game's over if
Right.
they throw that flag there.
Yeah. And Cal, they got off to a hot start, but they got smoked last week. They struggled against Boston College.
But won.
But that's a Friday night game. It's winnable. So, yes, you've got a chance to stack some results together. And you've got to do it now because, the second part of the end of your schedule is a lot more difficult.
Yeah, 3 of the first 4 ACC games. I think if you took the whole ACC schedule that Tech has, you go, those are the most winnable games in the whole thing. And if they win this week, they'd be 2-0. And other teams will play, and they could possibly be 3-0. So
does that mean they're at the top of the standings?
That does not mean they're at the top of the standings. There's a certain website out there. I'm begging them to learn how standings work. If you're 0-0, that does not mean you're tied for first place when other teams have conference wins. When you're 1-0, teams that are 2-0 are ahead of you in the conference standings. So try to make that joke a couple times. It's just not working.
You can say you're tied in the loss column.
Right, exactly. Winning percentage-wise, they are tied for first place. But no, they're not currently in first place. But they could be 2-0 after this week. They're 6-point favorites in this game. Who would have thought that a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I think it's just big confidence building weekend as a whole, and going forward, who knows what this season holds, Riley. But if you want to accomplish anything, this was a good start. You've won back-to-back. As Chris said, the only time under Brent Pry that Virginia Tech won 3 straight games was last season. When it was, or 2 seasons ago,
it was last season. It was Stanford, Boston College,
Georgia Tech. That's the only time, and Georgia Tech, is coming up obviously again. But
and that was against a bunch of backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a big statement win. Who knows what the season's going to hold? But you went on the road, you beat a starting quarterback in the ACC, and you deserved it. You played your butts off. You played really good defense. You limited the best running back in the ACC, or the leading rusher in the ACC, to his season low. And you made plays offensively when it mattered. Just a big confidence-building win, and it's, okay, can you stack on it? You got a Wake Forest team that you could beat. I mean, they could be 3-3 after this weekend. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean Tech's going to win 6 and make a bowl game, but it's big. If you want to give yourself a chance to do anything, these are the games, the 50-50 games, the one-score games that you hadn't won in the past. You win them, and all of a sudden this fan base is cheering about winning one-score games instead of instead of being so sulky about losing so many of them.
Well, a lot upcoming on the schedule. We do want to remind folks a day that we've been alluding to for quite some time now, which is tomorrow. There is a Board of Visitors meeting tomorrow at 9:30, which will be on Tuesday, and that could have some implications.
Yeah, and I wouldn't expect any new news
You think it's going to pass?
It's just going to be a vote, right? And
Of
it's
course
going to
it's
pass.
gonna pass.
Yep.
I,
It would be publicizing all this stuff if it wasn't going to pass. They're going to pass this.
I don't know what the margin is for passing necessarily, but I would say don't be surprised if it's not like completely unanimous across the board.
I absolutely think it'll be unanimous. I think this is one of those get on board or get out type of deals. I'm just curious to see if there's any other information that comes out
Right.
with it. Is there some sort of explanation of a structural setup? Will they actually say what kind of searches are going on within the, they've never actually come out and said they're going to have a general manager.
Right.
It's just kind of understood that that's what
Right.
they're talking about this whole thing.
They just sent Bruce Arians on ESPN to say
Right,
it.
exactly. There could be a little more, sunshine on this whole thing about how you're
Or who's on the selection
setting this up.
committee?
Who's on the selection committee would be a great start.
Because UCLA has announced a selection committee.
Yeah, they put a list.
Well, that's
out.
what happens when you have an athletic director who has power and can kind of assemble.
When
the-
Tech's
the
athletic
committee.
director isn't even in charge of the press release anymore when you fire a
Yeah,
football coach.
yeah.
So I think
Should
I thi-
UCLA's athletic director have power? He hasn't been making great decisions out there either. So
no argument here. Yeah. So there's a lot of unanswered questions here, but I don't know that we'll see anything tomorrow besides a vote though.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We had David Teal on a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about how important it is that they get the rollout right. Everybody expects it to pass. Maybe it'll be unanimous. Maybe it won't be. But how they explain what's going to happen is important. Hey, here's the money that's coming in. Here's what we're going to do with it. Here's where we're going to get the philanthropy from. Like, there are a lot of questions that I think a lot of people would love to be answered. Is it going to be tomorrow? Is it going to be down the road? I don't know. I think there's a chance that I believe maybe we'll talk to Witt at some point. I think we were talking with some people after Witt's press conference when they announced the interim, Montgomery as an interim, and talked about Pry and whatnot. And I think they said the next opportunity to talk to Witt would be after this, after the date, the September 30th date. So maybe we'll get more clarification from him on that front. We'll see. There's a lot still to come, and there's a lot of positivity now in the air now that Virginia Tech has won a one-score football game.
Yeah. So what can we see coming up at techsideline.com?
We're actually going to have Ask a Back Judge this week. We're not doing one of those each week this year, but we are doing one this week for kind of breaking down what's happened throughout the course of the season so far. Other than that, it's kind of your normal week of content for me. I might be able to squeeze in like a quick inside the numbers because there's some grading numbers that I want to point out, but it's not going to be very long because I want to focus on the coaching search.
How did the Dan Mullen piece turn out?
Pretty good. I haven't decided who I'm going to do this week though. I was thinking about Fran Brown.
You got to like draw
and
me-
then
yeah.
and then I watched that game. I was like, I don't think I'll be previewing Fran Brown.
You just
this
had to
week.
get. You just had to get your Syracuse mentioned in today.
I had to.
Poor Gio. Hope
Poor
Gio's
Gio.
doing okay.
Oh no, I can't. Can you imagine go 1 week beating Clemson and then losing 35 to Duke?
Well,
at home?
Gio texted me. He's like, "Quit talking about Fran Brown leaving Syracuse." It's like, well, you got your wish. I don't think people are talking about it too much now.
Maybe Syracuse fans.
Yeesh. We've got again normal football week. We have press conferences Tuesday, Wednesday, and then board of visitors stuff. And next week, I won't be here next week. We have the AC tip off next week, so I'll be in Charlotte with Carter Hill.
Yeah. Meanwhile, in terms of audio video, we have a pretty packed schedule as always. Press conference recap, talking with Teal, scouting report later in the week, previewing Wake Forest on Thursday with buy or sell after, Friday Q&A with Chris Coleman. Whole lot to be excited about here at Tech Sideline. Well, thank you very much for watching episode 441 of the Tech Sideline podcast. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and refer the show to a friend if you haven't already. I'm Riley Klaus for Chris Coleman, David Cunningham, and Andy Bitter with Nick Brown behind the scenes. Thank you for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one.